So we've got the top rim cleaned up. Everything inside is all cured and dried. I let that all dry, doing them separate. So I have the I Heart Geckos front conversion for the 10 gal. Now I'm gonna tape off this outer rim of the tank, just this outside edge to keep it from getting silicone, because the lid itself is going to sit on this inside lip, and that's where I'll run the bead of silicone along. So I want to tape the outside edge, and I'm going to actually tape the outside edge, but about a 1/16 of an inch in from the edge on the inside and outside of the lid also, so that when I put it in and everything seats where I want it to be, I can then peel the tape off while the silicone is still wet, but it will be a mess-free, smear-free deal. I won't have to wipe or what edges or anything, because that's a total pain in the ass with silicone, because you need to use isopropyl alcohol, just regular 70%, to clean it off properly, and it's a pain because it just smears around and it's harder to get off. Water won't work because the silicone is hydrophobic and it just displaces the water. So yeah, let's get to taping. Okay, let's do this. All right, so just so you guys can see a little bit better here, this is the outside edge that I'm taping off to keep clean from the acrylic. And then the new lid will sit on this inside lip, and that's where I'll run the bead of silicone. And if I didn't say it, clean off your edges that you're going to be siliconing first. I use isopropyl. Give it a good wipe down, make sure it's all clean. That evaporates very quick, so it dries off real fast, and then you're ready to go. So now I'm going to tape the edges of this inside and out like I was saying, and there's really I'm not following any guide for how far. I'm just going to eyeball it on the inside edge. I was saying I'm going to do about to my nail. I'm going to leave about that much exposed on both inside and outside so it doesn't bleach over really far when I press this into place on the lip here, if that makes sense. But I'll let you see. All right. So for the outside of this, I'm actually just going to set it up in here as it's going to sit. So that's how that'll be sitting. But I want to put it in there for now so I can give myself a reference of that inside lip in here and see where so I have that inside lip underneath the lid, and I can see how far in the lip is, and that's where I'm going to actually put the tape to the outside of that black lip is where I want the tape to sit. So the outside of the door, I'm actually going to tape almost right up to the edge, because I don't need any silicone on the front of the door. And I was just thinking about that. It's the inside edge of the door itself that I'm going to be leaving about a 1/16 inch or maybe an 1/8 of an inch, probably an 1/8 of an inch gap from the edge, because that's where the silicone will sit. Alrighty. Making my way downtown. We're getting there. Okay, so the outside's done. Now I'm going to flip it and do the inside edge. And now this inside edge is what I'm going to be leaving about 1/8 of an inch in of a gap, so that will lay along this silicone. Okay. So if you guys can see this gap here that I left to that tape line is the inside edge, and this is what the silicone is going to bond with from the inside lip of the tank to that. So then when I peel this off, there won't be any smear marks that go all the way in, or like press smear edges that are inside here or whatever. I can peel that off and it'll just be a nice clean line. And I miss you. And I need you. What a beaut. So now we have that. So it's hard to tell because I have both side tape, but this outside of the lid is about all the way up to the very edge, because we don't want any silicone on the front edge. But then on the back, I've got about an 1/8 inch gap from the outside edge to where the tape is, all the way around. And that's where the silicone will actually lay inside the tank on this inner lip. And then once this is in, everything's siliconed, I press it all down. I'm happy with where it's all seated. Maybe actually let it sit for like 10 minutes or so to let that silicone start to cure, to slightly firm up. And then I'll peel all this tape off while it's still wet enough that this should all just peel right off. And then there won't be any smears or mess to have to deal with, and just leave it all as it is to let it fully cure for 24 hours, and then let that off gas and get that nasty, stanky stuff out of there over the next week or so, or whatever, however long it takes. Yeah. So we're about ready to silicone this puppy. You should wear gloves. I never do, but I say to. I guess I could. Okay. So same silicone that I used for the cork background. It's just the GE all-purpose, 100% silicone, 100% waterproof. It's the clear silicone #1. I know there's all these big debates online that just seem to never end, with people who say this isn't safe and people who say it is, and I say it is. So there you go. That's that. I say it is because I've used it many times. I've used it in aquariums with water, like actually holding water, obviously aquatic organisms in there, whether it's snails, shrimp, or fish. And there was never any health issues. The waters were always fine. Yeah, there's going to be some amount of chemical leach that comes from it, but that's going to be with any, chemical that you're going to use. So, but once this is fully 100% cured, like not just letting it have the 24-hour cure, but actually letting it fully off gas and make sure that all the way internally it's completely dry and cured, there should be no problems. It's the #2 that you don't want to use, because that one has more added mold inhibitors. And then people say, like, this one has mold inhibitors too, and it actually doesn't. The ingredients are different. number one and number two. Number two is stronger and it has stronger mold inhibitors. So silicone is naturally resistant to mold growth. So I think that may be a part of the mix up, but then obviously if you don't trust this, then use the aquarium safe or animal safe silicone that costs like typically $5-6 on average more a tube than this does. And I don't want to spend that because I've used this and I know it's fine. So you do you, boo. So we're going to get going here. Normally, silicone guns will have a little clip on the handle, a built-in little clip where you can stick the tip in and it'll cut it, but this one doesn't. So how dumb. I like to cut it at an angle. I don't know if you guys can see that, but cut it at about a 45 there, and it gives you a nice natural kind of just easy line to be able to lay it in. So then you take the gun. They always, and at least in my experience, have this little needle on the handle that punctures the tube. Puncture it a few times. Make sure it's all the way through. Okay. Get that. Place your tube in. Tighten her down. All right. Spin that so the 45 angle is down. Oh, I see it. Oh boy. There we go. Wow. Don't do that. All right. So we're just going to start filling in the edge. It really doesn't need much, especially because this bead is going to be compressed down underneath the lid. So just slow, steady pressure. While steadily moving at a good pace. Gets a nice even layer in there. That should be more than enough to hold that little lid on. And then take the pressure back off the tube so it doesn't just keep squirting out of it. Wipe off that excess. We'll set this down over a rag in case it keeps dripping. Then all that you guys see in here, you can see the bead that I laid on that inside edge there. A little bit of mess there, but that doesn't matter. That's what we taped for. And so that edge, that bead's plenty to hold that edge down. You could even silicone on the inside edge of the lid once it's back on if you really wanted extra security, but this should be fine. Okay, so let's take this and see how it does. I'm just going to drop it on in. Try to do it pretty level. This thing fits pretty perfectly in here, so there we go. And then even pressure across the top, down the side, bottom, the other side. The other side is where I want to be. All right. Sick. So this should be pretty much done. That's really all you got to do. Just do that. I'm going to go around again, make sure it's firmly pressed down everywhere, seated all the way down to that inner lip of the tank. and that's a done deal. So we'll give that about 10-ish minutes to firm up a bit, and then I'll come back and peel all this tape off, and then we'll see how it looks. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. We're gonna peel this off and see how it's doing. You don't wanna wait too long, because if that silicone fully dries or gets firm enough with this tape on, and you go to peel this tape off, it's probably going to just be stuck under the dried silicone, and the tape's just going to rip, and you're going to be left with tape that's stuck under the silicone, and then you're going to have to scrape it off the silicone to redo. That's going to be a big ugly mess. So don't wait too long. Just peel it off and kind of be a little bit careful. Make sure you're following your edges nice. And I would do your inside edge also before you do this outside, just in case when you peel this inside one off, if it does push any silicone up or any thing like that, you can still have this outside one protecting it, and then peel that one off last. So yeah, I'll open this up and peel the ones from the inside. It's taped shut from the inside. Okay. So be careful of that. I probably should have ripped that off from the door on the inside so that I didn't have to do that. But I was careful, and I made sure this stayed stuck down, because you don't want to lift it off. You don't want to lift the lid off the silicone and press back down, because that creates a bunch of air bubbles in there, and it's already silicone that's trying to cure or starting to cure. So it's getting tacky. And when you lift it, put it back down, or lift it and put it back down, it just makes a big air bubbly mess, and the silicone won't seal nearly as efficiently as it should have. And it's going to look like crap too, because it'll be all air bubbly and ugly. But this one's still sitting very nice. That tape did a great job keeping it clean. Yeah. Okay. Now let's get it peeled off on the inside. Huh. So I'm finding out it kind of worked, kind of didn't, because it's nice because it kept the silicone off the inside of the lid, but the silicone stayed together, so it's not separating because it's set up too much. So I'll show you here. So inside that edge, you can see those big gunky chunks. That was all on the tape. It's not attached to the lid, obviously, it's free from the lid. So if I show you, this isn't attached to that. It's free from the lid itself, but it's stuck to itself. The silicone didn't separate. That should have peeled off with the tape. So that means that I left this to sit for too long. So you might want to only wait 5 minutes for that to set up and then peel your tape. 10 minutes is probably too much, because if it's 5 minutes, it'll be wet enough to where that peels off the excess with the tape, which was the goal. But it did not do that. It's just leaving the excess, but at least the excess isn't on the acrylic itself. So I can always come back later after that fully dries, and I could take a razor along that inside lip edge right there and probably run it right along, and it'll cut that dried silicone excess off really nicely. So that's an easy fix. But an even easier fix would be to not wait as long as I did. I'd peel it off earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and quit waiting even longer. So that actually worked really great along this entire bottom edge and this whole edge, except for the top here, where it did exactly what I was wanting it to do. But then in those couple spots here and up here on this top edge, it did not. So you can see that excess silicone there, but that excess silicone is just hanging. It's not actually attached to the inside of the acrylic lid. So I'm going to just leave that and let that cure and dry. And then I can come back with a razor and just cut that excess silicone off. And that should be a super easy cleanup. But as you see right here, the tape did exactly what I wanted inside that edge, where no excess came out inside past the black lip, which is ideal. And then the same down here along that inside edge. Did a great job. And this one did most, but then you see there's some spots there. But I'll just let that cure and then come back later with a razor on the inside edge and just clean those right up. Should be easy. And then there will be no mess. All right. So let's get that last little bit of tape off. All right. Okay. So there we go. That came out pretty good. Now, as you can see, some of the edges have the excess, like I was just saying. But this front edge, nice and clean. The outside of this door has nothing on it really. It's very clean, looks great. And then those few spots on the inside edge of the door, I'm gonna let dry and then I'll come back with a razor and cut them off. So that'll be an easy clean. You won't see any of that. Nice. All right. So there's that. I'm gonna let that sit and fully cure. This is what it'll look like. And now you have a 10-gallon converted from your traditional horizontal to a vertical 10-gallon tank front opening, which is pretty sweet. I have to try. Wow. Voila. Not bad. Pretty simple, easy way to do it. Definitely use the tape. I think it helps protect everything, make it a really easy, clean job. So you're not doing a bunch of wiping. And don't wait 10 minutes. Wait about 5 minutes, I would say, for this to tack up just enough, but not so much that it's going to stick to itself in these few spots on the inside. And instead will just peel off cleanly with the tape and separate. That's what you want. That's ideal. So yeah, done deal. Okay, lid is on. Next time we'll fill it up. We'll actually put some soil in here, put some plants in, put the decor in there, some slate rock I've got, some cork tubes, and we'll get it all set up and going on the next step. See you then.